What's up, guys? Welcome back to Adam's podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Welcome, Justin Smith. Justin is an absolute powerhouse of a real estate agent here locally in St. Petersburg, where we are based. But the reason why Justin is such a great real estate agent is because he understands how to get eyes on him and his clients' properties so well. And the way he does that is through video. And we're going to learn today about why he is such a video dominant agent with having a background in show business like he's had. He's been someone that I've been following since I moved here to St. Petersburg and kept my eyes on the up and coming agents in the area. And I'm just very impressed with how he shows up on camera and how creative he's willing to get when it comes to standing out. Most importantly, for his sellers' properties. Of course, it's about his personal brand. But when you think about what a real estate agent needs to do, you need to help these people get the money out of their home. And there's an ethical problem sometimes where people just don't want to go and do that. They just want to list it and wait. And so, Justin, we're going to get into that today with you, but happy to have you on the podcast, man. Welcome.
Dude, thanks, Tony, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad we finally sorted it out. You know, as a realtor and as a busy media entrepreneur as you are as well, it's like getting schedules to line up, you know, with last minute showings or last minute, listing appointments. And I know like we've rescheduled this a couple of times, but I've been looking forward to it. That's why first time I had to reschedule, I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I promise I'm not ghosting you. Let's get this.
I love that you said that. You're like, I'm not dodging you. And I love it. So just to that point too, which is interesting. One of our podcast sponsors is a brain supplement called Newtopia. They're like a real life limitless pill. They're about $400 a month. It's the top of the line product if you want to take a nootropic. I've been taking this for about 2 years. I've been working with this company, and we shot a large commercial for them starting last year, went into this year. And the commercial concept was amazing. I'm going to get a couple of our self-made millionaires locally. We're going to interview them and high-level professionals on how they use Newtopia to benefit their lives. And it's a great concept, and we finally finished it. But it took us like 3 months longer than expected because of coordinating with their schedules. Because what I had to do was get into their offices and shoot these guys. And man, the amount of cancellations that we got on just dealing with them. And I was like, and there's 6 of them. So I was like, this is going to take some time.
Well, I think especially in today's world as well, I think, I hate to use the word ghost, but I mean, I feel like, just getting the in-person meeting or getting a chance to actually meet up with somebody is so challenging because listen, I mean, we all have busy lives, every single one of us, right? And even if we don't, we're going to pretend we do. So it's difficult getting to line up with somebody these days. So, I appreciate technology and being able to do this because Lord knows doing it face-to-face would have been even more difficult.
Yeah, it would just limit. That's why I want to do this. Like we will eventually have, have the in-person vibe, but this doesn't limit us now because the next guest I have in the podcast tomorrow is a huge jiu-jitsu world champion, lives in Austin, Texas. And I have an hour with him. And that it lines up to have that. So you're able to get people, and I think that COVID really opened digital podcasting people and they just got used to consuming it like that. And it's like, hey, that's a great way to do it. So let's talk
Plus
about
it gives you kind of like a voyeuristic look inside somebody's, home or office or just life or what they might be like when they're, not on, if you will.
Yeah, I think my favorite one was Aubrey Marcus interviewed Matthew McConaughey during COVID, right after he launched his book, Green Lights. And it was awesome because it was just like this. It was webcam podcast with Matthew McConaughey, and he's just casual, sitting there. His hair's all messed up. He didn't get ready for the show, to get on camera. And I was like, that's just exactly the vibe I'd expect from McConaughey. And it was a great episode. Yeah. So let's talk about you, man. When it comes to real estate, like how did that transition happen for you, leaving show business and deciding, hey, I'm going to go into real estate, which is part of kind of show business in a way?
So it was a bit of a hybrid career for a while. I started in show business right out of high school and, got a job at one of the theme parks, grew up in Orlando. So that's where I kind of got my first taste of what's like acting and all that sort of stuff about, in the 120-degree heat in the middle of Orlando, the Soup Bowl back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and like a costume in the theme parks, running around, hi kids, all that sort of stuff.
So he put his time in.
Oh yeah. Definitely. My sweat equity was in on that one. No pun intended. And then that just transitioned into like, getting an entertainment agent and then eventually booking my first commercial and then a movie. And then that sort of just kind of snowballed. And then I had a job. So little, fun history on me. If anybody around the Central Florida market is watching this currently, I used to be known as the WB guy in Orlando years ago. So I was on what is now the CW, but what was WB 18 back in the day, all around like kind of the Orlando Daytona area. So I was kind of like a little local celebrity back then for about 4 or 5 years. I got an opportunity to go to South Africa for about 4 months and shoot a movie. the WB at the time said, well, you can either leave and go do that job or you can stay here. Well, I knew my time at the WB was coming to an end and it was just kind of going to fall flat. Eventually, I kind of hit the ceiling. I was doing all the on-air commercials. And I think about that job as like a radio DJ, although on TV. So I was like a paid brand spokesperson for the actual network. I would come on in the commercials and give little updates and interstitials on like what show was up next, right? So then I went to South Africa. I do this when I come back to Orlando. This would have been in 2005. I have no job, no nothing, but I'm sitting on a little pile of cash from my job and doing the movie. And at that time, we hadn't quite gotten into the downfall of 2008 yet. The market was hot. I had a lot of friends in the timeshare industry in Orlando, and they're like, "Oh man, you got to get your real estate license." And I'm like, "I'm an actor, no way." And but eventually, I wasn't working, so I was like, let me go see what this real estate thing's all about. So I went and I took my class. I got my real estate license. I hung my license with a brokerage in Orlando called Exit Realty. They were great in Winter Park. Did a little bit of work there before then continuing to carry this momentum of acting. And it kind of came like, well, what are you going to put your effort into, like acting or real estate? And I was like, well, I can do both. So I did that for a long time. And then eventually I was really, really doing a lot of work in the Southeast here in acting when all the film incentives were kind of going crazy. And I was going to Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans every other week for auditions and callbacks and shoots. And it was booking a ton of, not local, but a ton of, I did like Vampire Diaries and Army Wives and Burn Notice and all these TV shows you've heard of over the past decade or so. Yeah. And then eventually I took that because I don't want to say like booked everything in the Southeast, but I had done a lot that you could do here. And I was like, let me go to Los Angeles. So got married, picked up my life, went to Los Angeles. Now at this point, I put my real estate license on hold, right? So I kept it active the entire time, but went out to Los Angeles. I worked with one of the top brokerages in LA out in Los Angeles, kind of like as an assistant, data input, that sort of stuff, running their open houses, and also had a side hustle of doing home staging out there with the like number 2 or number 3 home stager in LA County out there. So I had a lot of experience going in, gathered a lot of experience working from some heavy hitters in Los Angeles. And so I just did that to kind of keep some income coming in, to keep a foot in real estate and still try to pursue some acting. And so then how that transitioned to where I'm at in St. Pete right now, I know this is a very long answer. I'm sure you can, crunch it up into little bits.
This episode of the Aliens Podcast is brought to you by 7 Day Social Realtor, your one-stop shop for all things real estate social media. It is an all-included course that teaches you how to shoot content, how to utilize content, how to make viral reels, and how to actually get yourself new leads and new listings with content in social media. You can find them at 7 Day Social Realtor on Instagram, as well as 7daysocialrealtor.com. Use code 8LIMS for 10% off.
But then how it transitioned into St. Petersburg is then in like 2015, my wife, Valerie, she got an audition to go be an on-air host for QVC. And albeit she made the top 10, they flew her to Pennsylvania. She did the whole bit. She ended up getting it. She came back. I didn't want to go to Pennsylvania. I was like, I am not a cold weather boy. I grew up in Florida. I cannot do Philly. No way. I kind of was like kicking and screaming and thankful when she didn't get it. But it kind of gave us the appetite. Like LA, we'd been out there for a few years and it was just kind of I was just sort of done with it. We were looking for our next move. And then
I think everyone hits that burnout time with LA too. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing. It's inspiring. We're going to get into the inspiration of it in a minute, but yeah, I think everyone gets that time where like, hey, like I want a place like where we're at now, where we're in one of the best places to live in the world in St. Pete, Tampa Bay area.
Right.
Yeah,
no, exactly. And I knew within 6 weeks of like moving back here, which fast forward, she didn't get QVC. She ended up going back 2 months later, getting an audition for HSN. We did the long distance thing. I stayed in LA for a bit until I moved here permanently within 6 weeks of being here in St. Pete. Because listen, when I grew up in Orlando back in the 80s and 90s, you didn't come to St. Pete, Tampa, unless you were coming for like, to party, right? There's a thing in Tampa. I don't know if they still do it. It's called Guavaween. So in Tampa, so you would come to Tampa to either party or you would come to, if you were on like God's, doorstep or something in St. Pete. So that was my memory of St. Pete, Tampa. So I kind of came kicking and screaming within 6 weeks of landing here in St. Pete and kind of like saying, okay, this is it. I remember looking at Valerie on the couch one night and I just said, oh my gosh, I love you. And I love you for bringing me here. This is amazing. And I think people who haven't really discovered St. Pete, Tampa yet, as if like you haven't since 2020, it is really, truly an amazing place, great quality of life. And I am like so grateful to God that we were out of LA before 2020 and we were here. And so, yeah, then I put my real estate, I went full-time in real estate then back in 2016, after kind of being a little bit of a hybrid mode, put kind of acting on the back burner and haven't really touched it in a number of years. And now I'm been full-time real estate since 2016.
That's so awesome, man. I love it. And so a couple things I want to circle back to is, and this has kind of been almost the case with me too, where we talk about this, where like, call like, there's two ways to look at expansion. There's people expanders and there's place expanders, meaning like you meet a new person or you go to a new place and you're not the same afterwards. And so like for me, my St. Pete life was like that. I've been in St. Pete for 3 years. I'm from Lakeland, Florida, which is right between Orlando and Tampa. I grew up there. I was competing in martial arts. I had a life there and I was a big fish in a small pond as far as what I was doing in the city I lived in, the notoriety I had there. And I was kind of comfortable being like, I'm kind of the man here. You know, I was in my young 20s, my late 20s, you know? Yeah. And so like life just changed. COVID happened and COVID actually, me and my ex-wife got divorced right in the middle of COVID, like a lot of couples did. And so we decided we're going to start over in different cities. So she goes Tampa, I go St. Pete, which is where I've always wanted to move anyways. I love the lifestyle here. And I was like, okay, so in St. Pete now, and St. Pete was such an expansion for me where I had a business, but I wasn't around the type of businessmen that I met here very quickly. So for me, and it kind of sounds like the same with you in California, where I moved here and suddenly got around guys who are my age or in their 30s. They're millionaires from running internet businesses and they're playing all day on wake surf boats and e-foils and jet skis. And I'm like, meeting them, and I'm like, the more and more I dig and find out, it was just this paradigm expansion where I'm like, that's how easy this actually is. It's like this, they did it and they did it and they did it. And look how they got. And then the second part of that was I cycle, I road bike. So when I first moved to St. Pete, I was living right in the old Northeast area. So my normal bike ride is all of Snell, all of Venetian, all of North Shore to Tanglewood is all I'd go. And then back
the best areas,
some that, and like I'm over here in Treasure Island now, which I love. But when I started to see the amount of waterfront, gorgeous homes here, it's this reminder of like, look at how many people have figured it out.
Right.
That's all I could think. Right. And so I think going back to you, like, would you say that going to LA and working with some of those brokerages, or do you think that kind of expanded the way you did business, or were you already used to seeing business at that level in Orlando?
I definitely wasn't used to seeing it in Orlando. Orlando is it's a great town. A lot of my family still lives there. I don't willingly go back if I don't have to. That's a whole other story for another podcast. But being in LA, it was a great education. I got to meet a lot of people that are, wealthier in not just in their bank account, but in life beyond measure.
Well said.
And to see how they got there and to know like, well, they're not that far ahead of me as far as age and just stage in life. But yet in a world from the world's perspective, they had so much more. And I'm like, it was so motivating. And so for me, it was always that sort of saying of, you're the sum equal of the top 5 people you hang around or whatever it was.
So
true. And no disrespect to my, fellow cohorts in acting or anything like that, but actors, with a lot of actors, especially in Orlando, coming up in the Southeast, the vast majority are like literally gig to gig, paycheck to paycheck, when am I going to get my next audition? And I'm like, I didn't want to live the rest of my life like that. Like, it's fun for a while, but I'm staring down the barrel of 40. I'm past 40 now, but at that time, I'm like, I'm staring down the barrel of 40. I need to make a transition in my life that I can create generational wealth, that I can provide for other people. And the biggest thing for me, the biggest awakening for me with real estate was whenever I booked an acting job in the past, however big or small, it was always felt kind of self-righteous, a little self-fulfilling. I wasn't able, like, other than giving to charity or at my church or whatever, I was like, I wasn't really doing anything to help anybody else. It was always like, look at me, your social media posts, look at this great show I'm going to be on. Don't forget, watch tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Okay, cool, whatever. It's great. I loved it. I'm so grateful for that time and that experience in my life. And I'm not saying like that's over and I'll never venture back into acting again. But with real estate, I'm able to take the education and take all the years of rejection in show business, as I'm sure you have heard, it's 100 times worse than anybody could ever express. And I was able to build that into my business and develop that thick skin. And when I close a transaction, it's not about me. It's about, you'll never really hear me say, oh, I closed that, I sold that. It's, I helped that person sell that house. I helped that person buy that house. I helped that person create generational wealth. I helped that person, provide for their family. And for me, it's like, when I have success in real estate, it's so much more about the other person or the other business involved than it is about me, as it was, with acting for so long.
Yeah, very well said. I think that's huge too. Like having a path in life that you feel proud of and you're doing meaningful work. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you know who he is. And there was a video that I shared the other day, which I totally agree with. And he was basically saying, like, the interviewer asked him, why are weak men such a problem? And he said, weak people are a problem. And I don't mean physical weakness. I mean cowardly and deceitful. And he's like, well, if you can't carry your own weight in life, someone's got to do it for you. And then the second response was, he goes, if you don't pick a path in life that you feel makes the world a better place, you're going to become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence. And you tend to seek your revenge on anyone you can. And I sat back and I was like, I know people that are like that, right? Like, they're just unhappy with the cards they were dealt. And so they just look to get up on anyone they can. And like, and it's a sad way to be. So that's a great way when you're doing meaningful work, especially I think with real estate agents. I think one of the agents' biggest, I'm lacking the word here, but just one of the things they can do that makes the biggest difference is we can help someone get equity out of a home they've owned their whole life. So they got that 60-year-old couple. And this is where we talk about a lot. I've seen some bad cases of this where you get an agent who it's the first one they talk to. He sharked them. They're pretty gullible. And the agent doesn't care. They do minimal media, basic photography, sometimes shoot with the phone because they don't care how much more they can get out for that client. If they can get the client 30 grand more, it's not going to reflect that much more on their closing check. Like, why do it? And then you see agents who are like, no, I'm going to do everything I can to help you get as much out, because for John and Sally, that's all their money in that home. So I think that's huge that you look at it like that, and that's one of the biggest areas of ethics that I see in real estate that people just ignore,
It's a good point, because I've heard other realtors say like, oh man, what, why do you tell them that? Like, I do anything just to, it's just about closing the deal. It's just about getting it closed. Like, commission chasers. And okay, cool. We get real estate agents, for the most part, we get paid very well when we do a good job. But out of the thousands of real estate agents out there, not just in, the greater Tampa, St. Pete area, but in the world, like, I would say it's a very small percentage that actually, one, know what they're doing, not just taking what they learned in a class, but actually know what they're doing beyond the classroom education, but actually just being a human and interacting with other humans in arguably the most stressful and largest purchase or biggest asset they've ever bought or sold. And I think, so much of a real estate job isn't just, knowing the price per square foot and how to best negotiate a deal, but is being a therapist, is being a psychiatrist, right? And once you can kind of like master that skill along with the education that, most realtors should know, I think that's the intangible that will take, that will separate the professionals from the amateurs. And we're already starting to see it now in 2023. I think we had a lot of real estate agents who jumped into it because they saw all their friends doing it in 2020 during the pandemic with the career changes. Oh my gosh, look how easy it is. I can take some iPhone pictures and the floor's jacked up, and the walls have paint peeling off of it. Who cares? We need to get that fixed and throw it up, and the house is just going to sell itself. Well, now we're running into a time where we went from a white hot market to maybe just like a hot market or a normal market. And I think a lot of real estate agents they're not used to it. They don't know how to transition a normal market, forget transitioning from a white hot market to a down market. And I think we're seeing just kind of a major change of the guard right now. And I'm very grateful to still have a career in it. Since 2005, even though I took a little bit of hiatus in the middle of that time period, but I'm so grateful to still be in this business after all these years and still servicing and helping my buyers and sellers and investors and anybody out there I can, not just with, being a realtor, but with using media to do that as well.
Yeah. And that's it. That's kind of the whole gist of it, is like what you were saying, the agents that jumped in. We always make that joke. It's like, we feel like every hot bartender in Tampa just quit working the same day to become an agent, thinking that's all they had to do, right? And like
Yeah.
that's an area we saw, right? A lot of like, wait, I'm attractive. That's all I need, right? And I'll just make all my entire social media about me being sexy on a boat, and that's somehow going to help me
Right.
sell homes. And so
Right.
it's like, of course, that route doesn't work, and there's no longevity in that route. And we really urge our agents to not go that route. But
Yeah.
what I think that you've done so well, which is how I have my, the reason I love the idea of this podcast is because we've never worked together and we've never met. I found you through you doing quality media. And so for me, we've got just under 500 agents in our media business, because we're based in 7 different locations. And so we have a lot, and we do a lot of stuff. I'm like, this dude really gets creative with his stuff. So it's like, when you think longevity is really what it's about in business. And when I teach events on social media marketing for agents, we always say it's not the best agent that wins. It's the most well-known agent that wins, because most of the time sellers are going to sell with the first agent they speak to. And so if you're
Yeah.
doing your job right and your insight in mind enough, you will oftentimes be that first agent they speak to. But you think about when you do media like you do, it's not just like, hey, of course you're doing professional photography, but you take it a step further and you usually have video on that home. And the video is so much more eye-catching, because everyone knows platforms prioritize video. So you're giving that seller that much more of a chance to get eyes on the property. And a common route that we see happen a lot is like, it's not just about getting that buyer's agent to see your video. It's about getting those buyers to see the video of the home. And that makes them really want, because now they're connected to how the floor plan lays out. They're seeing the waterfront space. They're seeing the outdoor space, the fire pit, the pool, and they're imagining what it could be like. So the video aspect is just so huge in real estate right now, because you're getting eyes on. I think I hear your puppy, which is cute. You should make
Yeah. She'll jump up here in a minute. She's barking at like the dog outside or whatever right now.
Yeah. But what is your take on the importance of video? And I guess twofold, right? Because we always say this, like, we teach a lot of agents how to grow their social medias, but we say, hey guys, yes, photos sell the house. And I do agree with that. Photos will sell a home, and we provide photography as well, but we push video so much because video sells the agent and the home. And it's like something that I took from Grant Cardone. I'm not sure your thoughts on him. Everyone has mixed opinions, but I love a lot of his teachings, and something that I agree with 1,000% that he says is, he said, if you truly believe that you, Justin Smith, are going to be a home seller or home buyer's best option, you think, hey, I'm the best guy to sell your house. I'm going to help you. I'll make the process easiest. I'm going to give you the right information. I'm going to help you get as much money as possible. If you really believe that, which you should if you're in business, then it's unethical to not outmarket the competitors.
Right.
And when he puts it in that perspective, it's like, it kind of is like, if you think you're the best guy, then you need to go make sure that you're the one that gets that job. And so it's like, what do you see? What are the value do you place on media? 1, for branding you, but 2, for actually showing the space and showing the home.
So yeah, no, that's, and listen, I like Grant Cardone. I mean, there's some things he does that are a little sensationalized and a little bit, over the top, but whatever, we all kind of do it. I kind of have a lot to say, so try to, follow me here as I weave my way through it. So with media, I started seeing agents use media, more commonly just a few years ago. And I was like, you've got an acting background. You've, produced and written and done short films and, long films, and you've written films. You've got this experience. How can I use that in real estate? And, my first inspiration, to be honest with you, I think like a lot of realtors right now, maybe not, your old hats, but, a lot of younger realtors, was watching $1 Million Listing, watching Ryan Serhant, watching these guys do these creative, outlandish videos. And I'm like, how can I do something like that, make it a little bit better, but make it Justin? And so I just started, I was tired of seeing the, hi, welcome to 123 Banana Street. This is a kitchen. Those are countertops. Let me take you to the bathroom. It's like, great, we can see that. Tell me something I don't know, or, let me, don't act funny, but let me just teach me something about the house and be entertaining. So I started to implement a lot of that into my videos, even if it's not being like, oh, this is 3-bedroom, 4-bath, 2,100 square feet located in blah, blah, blah. If I'm doing that, I'm trying to do it in a creative way where it's more in a filmic format, so that you're watching it, you're engaged, you're entertained, and you don't even know that you're consuming the specs of the house while I'm doing this little, acting skit or whatever it is that I'm tagging on the top as an intro into my actual house tour.
Yeah, I got
And
to jump in because you did that so
yeah,
well. I think in one of your videos, I'm just remembering because before the show today, I did a little bit more, refreshing research. And well, actually, two funny parts. I say that in every bit of content I record when I teach our course. I say 1, 2, 3 Banana Street. Is that like a common thing? Because I've never heard anyone say that before.
that's Glenda Baker out of
Okay,
Atlanta.
maybe that's where I got it from.
That's her. Yeah, I'll show her love. Tag her in this because
She actually
she's
is
one
going
of.
to be a guest in April on the show.
Is she? Well, you
She's
tell
coming
her
up
that
on
she has got another fan here.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know why Siri just came on, but I'm going to click her off.
yeah,
You
Glenda's
tell her
awesome.
that Miss Baker has a big fan in me. I watch all of her stuff. She's hilarious. She's great.
Yeah,
And but that's where I got it from because she
yeah, she's
just
awesome.
started
It
saying it.
makes
I was
sense.
like, oh, that's a great.
One of my first guests, named Justin Kavanaugh. He owns a large media company up in Canada and a brokerage called Prime Brokerage, and he does a ton of media. So we got connected through a friend in a Periscope or one of those groups where it's like business. Someone connected us, and
Okay.
he's looking at starting a real estate media company in Canada. So they contacted us, and I have a really detailed framework for how we train our shooters, detailed shot lists to make sure we execute. So I'm just on one phone call. I was like, yeah, man, I just gave it all to him. And he was like, I cannot believe you just gave me this. This is like so valuable. I appreciate you so much. You're a real one. So then I was on his podcast, and later I saw that him and Glenda Baker followed each other. I'm like, hey, can you make an intro on Instagram for us? And he's like, absolutely. So
Okay.
he connected us on a DM, and then boom, it sparked off this, which is awesome. But 1, 2, 3 Banana Street. And the point is, your Top Gun video. I don't want to get distracted here. Was
Yeah.
you do the Top Gun, which is perfect when Top Gun's trending. I loved it.
Yep. Yep.
And it's very funny. So it makes me want to watch because I'm just laughing going, what the hell is this guy about to do now? And it makes me
Yeah.
laugh. But I like when you're like, the house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and a pool. Like you weave it in a way where I'm like, I noticed that. I'm like, that was smooth, dude. That was like, you don't even realize. You don't realize you're being sold to or pitched to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And a lot of those videos too that I come up with, and that was arguably, I would say, like, I don't know, my most well-known one. Whenever I show up to a listing or I'm around other agents, they're like, you're the Top Gun video guy. Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of others too, but yeah, that's the one that,
Yeah, you're gonna always have the
got the
one
most.
that's like boom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that, got the most notoriety around here. But for me with these videos, I'll show up and, some agents are like, yeah, but you used to be an actor, so it's easy for you. I'm like, no, it's not. That adds a whole other level of stress to my listing process. I'm not just, once I get the listing, putting it on the MLS and taking some pictures and calling it a day and, maybe doing some postcards or door knocking. It's like, I'm doing all of that. Plus I'm writing the video. Because a lot of people think like, oh, your shooter, he writes all that stuff for you, photographer, or, they have that concept. Like, how much does that cost? I'm like, well, I write it all. I produce it all. I act in it all. I'm directing the whole shoot and everything. Yeah, my shooter shoots it and he edits it, but I'm giving him the script, literally shot breakdown by breakdown, all the way through A to Z, how to do it. I'm not saying it's easy for him, but I'm just saying,
No, but realistically, that's an ideal client. Like no client thinks like that. So to have a client that would be like, hey, here's the shot list. As a shooter, you're like,
right,
great, this is awesome. Let me just go execute. So you're taking a lot more of the workload than a traditional agent does.
So yeah, and I'm doing all of that, and that's part of like a value that I'm bringing to my listings, and it accounted for, I would say, like a third, like me getting listing appointments and getting the listing in 2022 accounted for about a third of my volume when I added up from, I would say, whether it be, Facebook or YouTube leads, just people DMing me. And, I get a lot of fake leads too, or people that aren't really interested. But there's a few that I respond to, and I've gone on the listing appointment, ended up selling their house. The Top Gun house, that came from Facebook. From that seller saw my video of me jumping in the pool fully clothed on one of my earlier videos.
Yep.
And she was like, I love you. I love what you did. I love your marketing. And it's more so, I think what that is from the seller or the buyer seeing you, seeing your personality. And that's another point with agents. Like I tell every agent, because I've had a few agents come up to me, especially like in my firm, like, hey, can you write something for me? Can you help me? And I'm like, just be yourself. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. Because I think many agents, as soon as they see that red light come on, I don't know what to do with my hands or my voice. How do I walk and talk at the same time?
That's it. So yeah.
So all I was going to say is, like, I tell them, listen, just be yourself, be organic, talk about the house. And if you can be a little charismatic and creative, go for it. But yeah, that Top Gun house came from a Facebook DM, just a simple Facebook DM. And I think it's going back to what I was saying. with buyers or sellers, it gets them more comfortable with who's on screen. They feel like they know you, even though they don't know you, they feel like they know you. So it just creates that level of comfortability versus you walking into their house cold. They have no clue. And you have to do that icebreaker where once they've seen you in video and they feel comfortable with you and you walk in that house for them or you walk into the listing appointment, there's already that sense of familiarity.
I agree with that 1,000%. We talk about that all the time. So it's like, I can see you and I see it very similar, which is awesome. You feel like they're like, hey, right away, I'm like, this dude knows, and like, I already knew you knew, but you really know the reasons for it. Right. Exactly that. It's like when you can, like, there's a concept what's called frequency illusion. It's a mental concept. There's a book called Blink. It's a phenomenal book about how the mind processes information. So we all experience frequency illusion. Let's just say you are going to go buy, like, I just bought a Ford Raptor. I don't know if you know what that truck looks like.
Absolutely.
You don't see those everywhere. I didn't see them everywhere.
Did you get the new one with the V8? Because they had the V6 in it for a long time.
Got the V6. Got the previous year, which is what I wanted.
All right.
So before, like, I didn't see them all the time, right? Until I was about to buy one. And then I start noticing, I feel like there's 1,000 of them in St. Pete alone because they're all over the road because that's frequency. There's not any more frequency of Raptors. My mind is tuned into them now. Okay. This is the concept that we use as advertisers and marketers. So the idea is like, hey, if you can make someone, so when someone's neighbor is selling the house and they might be considering selling their house, now they're paying attention to all real estate marketing, where last year they were paying attention to none of it. So now they're paying attention. So you're auditioning constantly with the neighborhood, with that seller's friends, with people in the Facebook group, with everyone. And then to go even further, if you can be known. So this is something Grant Cardone, I watch a lot of his sales stuff and it was amazing. He said something on the podcast yesterday that I loved. He was like, I want to have as many conversations as I can as possible, but I need to make sure that they know me before we're talking. Yeah. And I experienced that a lot with myself. So when I moved here to St. Pete, I'm sure same with you. My ideal clientele is real estate agents, developers, builders, interior designers, because we do services for all of them. So for us, it's like we're hosting a big event tonight in St. Pete Beach for Smack My Axe. So Greenleaf Title Social, and we're one of the sponsors. I've been doing that a lot since I moved here. It's huge now. When I go places where there's a lot of real estate agents, I'm very well known in this space. And it's because I run so many ads, I post so many videos, and I collaborate with so many. So they definitely are starting to know me as my name, but also 8 Limbs Creative. And what that's doing is there's no longer a sales process like, hey, like we've had a lot of people that they had a photographer or had a videographer. Once they meet me or one of my team in person, hey, you guys are amazing. How do we book? They're ready to go because they're prepped, right? They're seeing us. And something about being on camera, that's the beauty of creating social media. We're used to only see people on TV and high production cameras. So we associate this authority, this persona, this prestige with it. Well, now you can make a celebrity out of yourself. That's all Ryan Serhant is. He made a celebrity out of himself because he got on camera. If he did exactly what he did, but he didn't film it, he wouldn't be who he is. And so it's like getting yourself on camera. You can choose to make whatever you want of yourself, but the more times people see you, and especially as we teach a lot on the social media curation. When someone goes to who is Justin Smith, I might want to have him sell my house, and they start scrolling your Instagram account. I actually used you the other day. I did a live webinar for Mav Realty. So we had like 100 people on this thing, and I used you as one of our case studies. So I pull up Instagram accounts of people doing a good job and agents doing a poor job. And I make sure that the ones doing a poor job I pull out of state. But I used you, I used Utah Real Estate, and Realtor Landlord. I don't know if you follow those other accounts.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I use those two as examples because they follow content pillars. So when you go to their page, it's not just like overwhelming. I'm a realtor. Let me sell your house. It's like that guy that's like hitting on girls nonstop. It's like, enough, right? It's like, hey, who are you? Hey, you see, and I curate. Hey, look, you got him on a paddleboard. You got him and his wife. You got him and his wife and his dog traveling. You see sprinkles of your life. He's a real person. He goes on some trips. He's got a family. And then you see real estate, and a lot of it's just value content. There's really never you can find like, hey, let me sell your house. But what you do so well is you have a link tree where it's like, hey, you can want to work with me, want to get in touch, want to see what I've done. So if anyone was curious about you because you're selling the neighbor's house, you've made it very simple for them to look and follow and go, hey, no, this guy's the guy. Like, I like his style. And if they don't love that style, then they go to another agent. That's the beauty of the abundance of it all. They'll flow. But it's just so good in making yourself well known and putting yourself in the space. And the beauty of it, and what you said about the hitting the red record button, in 10 years of running a media company, that has been our biggest dilemma, has been
Yeah.
we would originally, when we would do like large commercial campaigns, they would bring in a paid actor and they'd bring in an on-camera presenter to sell a product. We did a mattress commercial and they said she was phenomenal on camera. And I was like, I wish all of our clients could be like this, but they're not, right?
Right.
It's the
Right.
business owner themselves that would want to present their business with, and they had no camera experience.
Uh-huh.
So they had to learn a
Right.
lot. That's why I started recruiting guys from film school that had experience training people to be on camera. That was how that whole process started for us. But with real estate, we see that a lot where they will show up to a shoot and where they would show up to a shoot and then they would start to record and they would just stiffen up. And so this is what we experienced. We're off camera, like me and you were before the podcast. We're just chatting, just man to man, just chit chat, comfortable, relax. And then some people, they can do this with you and all of a sudden record starts and they just stiffen up. And it's like, yo, we were just talking a second ago. So there's something about that people let themselves get in their head about that they can't do, and it stops them from doing it. So the agents who are getting on video a lot and having a really cool detailed like data system like we do, we use a payment processing service. So what's so cool is the end of the year last year, we're able to pull numbers and we're able to see like agents, like for instance, like what's our number one agent we work with? Okay, cool. How often does he book photos only packages? Never. How many times does he do video? Every property. Okay, how about the agents who just do photos only? How many listings they get a month? 1.4 a month is their average. There's no such thing as 0.4 listing, but that's the average of them. So that's like, hey, they're not producing. Our video agents are 8 to 10. You know, they're getting listings monthly because their team is, because they're always in sight. So it does make such a difference. And it's like, if that one hurdle, getting on camera, is enough to stop the majority of agents, then that falls into that same ethics point that I was speaking about, was like, hey, well, I want to sell your house and I'm willing to do everything I can to sell your house, including get on camera and make a fun skit. So hire me. And so I love that whole thing that you embody, you know?
Well, and that's a good point you bring up with, you know, I will do a video for every house. I didn't always do that. You know, I used to have like a price threshold. Like if your house is over 500,000, I'm doing the video, right? And now I don't care what house you have, I'm doing a video because I realize the reach and I realize the power in branding and marketing myself and my business beyond your house. Because I would say that I would argue that, yes, absolutely. First and foremost, I am doing a video to promote your house, whoever's house I'm selling at any given time. I'm doing a video to promote and brand your house more than just postcards or door knocking or putting an ad in a magazine, which that's all great. If that's what you're good at, I'm trying to focus on all of it. Focus on that one thing as an agent. Focus on that one thing that you're good at and that works for you. If that's postcards, great. Do more of that. If it's door knocking, do more of that. If it's video, that's what works for me. That's what I'm going to go all in on. And so I would argue that, yes, I'm doing the video first and foremost for your house, but I'm also doing it to market myself to the next seller or the next buyer as well. And, you know, I think we all have access to it. It's so easy to do now. And I think I watched one of your interviews with, is it RP Funding, Robert Palmer? You guys were like on a Learjet or something.
You're on his private jet. Yeah.
His private jet, right? Yeah. And I was like, you know, he brought up a good point. Like media was what 10x'd his business, right? He went on camera. Now he didn't have these, right? He didn't have these to go on camera real quick. He had full TV cameras to do it. But I think every agent has access to something in their pocket every day that they can just pick up a phone and shoot something. Now, am I the best at doing content every day? Should I do it more? No, I should do it more. And I'm not the best at doing it, but I will do it when, you know, for every single listing I have, if I've, you know, find something that's important that I want to get a message out to the community or to my neighborhood, because I feel like, you know, if the consumer is waiting for the agent to walk in their house and tell them something, they're going to be waiting for a long time. But if we as agents can get that message out to the consumer, buyers, sellers, investors, with this in our hand, like it doesn't have to be perfect, hair perfectly coiffed, you know, like you were saying at the top, you know, Matthew McConaughey stepping out and he was just kind of during 2020, he was what he was. All right. You know, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, so there's like 3 points there that I want to address. One, what RP said in that video, which is awesome. He actually flew me and my team out to Texas with him when he was launching his brokerage in Texas, and he wanted media coverage of all of it. And we were also promoting. So we have an online course called 7-Day Social Realtor, where after 10 years of serving agents, we realized they are just so lost in social media, not only how to post on social media and what to post, when to post, what kind of content to put where, but how to take their phone and just shoot simple content. So we created it. We took about 9 months. My team and I put a really detailed course together to help real estate agents dominate real estate social media. especially shooting buyer properties that not their listing, but they're going and viewing, make your own high quality videos with your phone, right? So he flew us out because he wanted to position that course to his agents out there. And what I loved about that was I was talking about the TV, and that kind of was an impromptu podcast. We were flying back to Orlando from Texas overnight. And I was like, man, what blew you up? Like, how do you have your own private jet? Because he's a very, very wealthy gentleman. And he's like, it was absolutely video, as I did 10 years of it. And he's like, and so we started chatting. I'm like, hey, do you mind if we record this? So I got my guy ready. I'm like, let's go. Let's put mics on. So what he said, which is interesting, was 80 grand a month that he was spending for television advertising 10 years ago. And so he's like, at the time that I was doing this, it was way more than anybody would reasonably spend. And this is something that if you look at the definition of an entrepreneur, I do see most real estate agents as entrepreneurs. However, very few identify as that truly, because they always blame the market. Well, look, every entrepreneur I know, they have a market. It's called the economy. So it's the same shit. It's like they can blame that too, but no, they still get their products to sell, right? I got a millionaire friend who sells products on Amazon that are like testosterone boosters, and he runs this as a one-man show from his house. And it's like, the economy. No, dude, he's just doing stuff. So it's like agents who identifies entrepreneurs. The definition for an entrepreneur is someone that takes above average risk. That's the dictionary definition. They take above average risk. Well, then it's like, hey, like I read this thing really good one day, and it was a quote, and it was a text from 2 to 2, and it said, hey, I don't want to take that much risk. And the response was, but bro, that's where all the money is. And it's like, it's so true, right? So it's like with video, when you think about someone like RP 10 years ago, he's like, yo, I'm going to put almost all of our monthly income into advertising. It pays off in 10 years down the road. Where when an agent can't justify, like, hey, I have a house and it's $375,000 and I don't want to do video. It's not really a video worthy house. It's like, hey, you're missing the point here. Rather than try to educate those agents, we just learned to say, hey, let's just find the ones who already get it. Because then trying to convince somebody that didn't get it, they didn't get it, right?
Right.
But yeah, investment in video is huge because it sustains the evergreen life of the brand. Like there's an agent in South Tampa. His name's Christian Fidel. Been in business with him yet? He owns Fidel Real Estate.
Okay. I'm not.
Connect you guys because you guys have very similar personality. He's very charismatic, gets on camera a lot. He hired my company almost 3 years ago to shoot a full community tour on Davis Island, which is where he lives, which is a lot of video. Okay. And it was like we shot it like a show. Like he's a show host hosting it. There was like 3 or 4 different outfit changes. He did the tennis outfit, the suit outfit, the boat outfit. He goes into, he had like big donuts and walks dogs and just showed the whole lifestyle of the island and showed all the different type of architecture. It's a really well done community tour. He sent us a text the other day and he's like, hey, Tony, cool story. I just closed my 3rd property off that video that's been on YouTube for 3 years. This was $3.6 million buyer. They found me solely from the video of me showing the island. They were looking to relocate to Florida, found him because he's the host, $3.6 million buyer in the bag. And of course, we screenshot that and we read it as a testimonial ad to our clients. I'm like, hey, but he's able to see that 3 years ago, he invested. He paid for that community tour, right? And this was not a $300 job. This was a full day show we shot. But it's continuing to play. So when you think about the video investment you have, like I was explaining, you've got just stuff out there forever. And then the last part that I want to circle back to is you said, hey, when they have a house I used to not do video on homes that were less than 500,000, which is a lot of people. I think COVID was what really put video in the limelight because now everyone's at home watching the tours. That's what really exploded us. That's when my team and I left doing commercial advertising and we're like, hey, let's just go all in on real estate because the demand was huge. And the amount of people that were delivering to agents were very underorganized. We were already a put together agency and they were dealing with like one-man shows that just couldn't keep up. There's no customer service. There was no one, right? What we noticed was they would say that too. But when you think about it like this, it's like even if the house is lower end, you get an opportunity to get yourself on camera and show that, hey, I can also sell stuff like this. And there's a way that I can make this fun and engaging. And then even going further, like, hey, the number one reason I shoot the house is to get eyes on the property. And the second reason is, of course, for me. And it's like, sometimes people think that there should be any kind of like, oh, well, it shouldn't be about me. No, it's good to be about you because what you're doing is you're getting yourself more business and more experience so that for all the future clients, you're in a better place. For instance, like if you're an agent, like you said, and you were living paycheck to paycheck and you had no money and you go to a listing appointment and they want to sell for 400,000. Let's say they want to sell for 800,000, but the house is worth 750. Sure. You're probably going to lie and go, yeah, I can do 800. You need to, you got to get that. You got to get it, right? You with me?
Sure.
you're in a worse place. So you can lose integrity and then the deal can go bad, or you can force them to price reduce down to the bottom, which it's not good for anyone. But if you're an agent where you've built your business in a way where you have enough money and you have enough leads, you can actually walk into a listing appointment and be honest, right? And now you can be like, hey, I'm not comfortable listening for 8. It's just not, I can't do it. So by advertising more and by producing more media, you put yourself in a better spot to be a better agent and establish better expectations. And then a lot of times they'll say, hey, we'll still list with you. Let's do it. But if you were like that kind of agent that's such a pushover, and that's what we've seen a lot of too, where we used to do a guaranteed to sell in 30 days with our agency.
Okay.
And but sometimes we're like, hey, we have got to start talking to you guys about how the hell you're pricing these houses, because somebody would just go and they would just say yes to anything because they needed to get a deal in their hands and at least try.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a lot of power in no, right? If I'm walking into a listing and somebody wants to list their house, I'll take your example for 800. And I know the max comp in the neighborhood is 750 and their house is not even as nice as that comp. Yep. Sure. Years ago when I first started, would I have said, yeah, we'll do that. And then just, they're chasing the market down, they're hemorrhaging capital. And then I look like the bad guy because I've overpromised and I'm under delivering, which is, I think there's a few different types of agents out there. I think there are those agents that overpromise and underdeliver.
A lot of them.
Right. And then you've got kind of your neighborhood market specialists who are, your house might just be another number to them. They're kind of farming specialists. And then you've got, I think, people like me who I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to bring all of my marketing, all of my branding, all of my expertise, which, let's be honest, I think a lot of realtors can do the basics. We can do the nuts and bolts. You walk in, you put 5 realtors against each other. We're all probably going to have the same desktop, kind of CMA to show you. We're all going to give you the same basic information, but it's those intangibles, how you connect with another person, how you're going to market their property best. And maybe it's a simple video. Maybe it's a creative video. Maybe it's no video. Like I said, it's what works for you. So I think there's those things that are going to set, somebody like me apart from maybe agents who aren't diving into video. The other day, I got a comment from somebody saying, oh man, your videos they're like, they're so crazy and over the top. I love them, but man, they're like so wild. And I'm like, yeah, but look, you're talking to me about it right now. Right. So, they were like, do you ever do it? What's that?
Was he trying to say it to you as like a negative, like, oh, like making fun of it? Or?
It might have been a little bit of a backhanded compliment. Yeah. Whatever.
You can feel the energy with that. When it's,
I'm pleasant. So I was like, oh, okay, great. Thanks. Yeah. But, but I've heard that a couple times. And listen, if you don't like my personality, my charisma, the way I market your property, then maybe we're not the best fit. And that's okay. Cause there's a lot of, there's real estate for everybody. There's enough to go around. And so for me, and I've dealt with enough rejection in show business and in real estate that like, listen, if you don't like the house I'm selling, right. There's a butt for every seat. Somebody else is going to like the house I'm selling. If I'm not the guy to sell your house, that's okay. The guy down the street or the girl down the street, I'll sell their house. So I created this video for this new listing I have, but I just kept it simple this past time after I got that comment. And I've received that comment a couple times throughout it. And I think I'm getting off topic of your question, but I've not gone back to, but I've done the more basic videos as well with just bringing some personality into it. And it's still like this most recent video I did. It's nothing wild. It's nothing crazy, but it's still getting a lot of traction, even with just keeping it basic as I can, right? Without doing I did one with a condo tower in St. Pete recently where I'm like not really jumping over the edge, right? Where I'm flying or the Maverick, the Top Gun one. Yeah. I'm doing these like more, these bigger production, high quality videos. And, but I went back to the basics, if you will. And what I'm getting at is it still works. They don't always have to be wild.
They don't need to be so theatric to hit the target. And exactly, like you have a unique skill set to do that, which is why you stand out. But like for instance, like we'll use this example. There's a couple. They're John and Christine Hubbard. They're in Polk County in Lakeland, Florida. They're a married couple, and he went into real estate first. She came in from the corporate life about 6 months later and joined him. They are the powerhouse team in that city. I mean, they're probably 17 to 20 listings a month. They do. They absolutely kill the game. They're like number 1, number 2 in the whole area. I have a buddy who owns multiple brokerages, is a multimillionaire, has been a mentor of mine, and he always just provides value for all of us, takes us to big dinners. He's just like that guy. He's a very high level real estate professional, wrote books, respected in the space. And he calls me one day and he's like, "Hey man, have I ever asked you for anything in 6 years of mentorship?" I said, "No, you haven't." He said, "I got a favor for you." I'm like, "What is it?" Is like, "Get me a lunch with John Hubbard. I want to recruit him to our brokerage." And I laughed. Like, they're killing it. The reason why, I'm saying that, and John, if you're watching this, bro, this comes from love, because I love them to death. Not a very charismatic person on camera. He's not like an entertainer. He talks pretty monotone, and he just says it. But he's real to who he is. And what they did, which put them in the position they're in, was when COVID happened, and this actually was like an interesting time for business. A lot of our agents were like, "Hey, I don't even need to hire you guys. I'm going to shoot cell phone photos because the house is going to sell." That was a lot of our clients that were like that. And we would see them listing properties on social, and they weren't hiring. These are clients that would always use us, and they just stopped for a while there. So what did John and Christine do is they went ham. Every single house, full package. If their team, they recruit them a team, and the team didn't have the extra budget for the video, they would just pay it. You're on our team, hey, video. And in about a 2-year span, when no one in the community is doing it and everyone's doing it, it's like when the dust settles, they are the two, because they're so well known. And they didn't do anything theatrical. It was just very like, "Hey guys, here's who I am. Here's this beautiful property. Come take a look." Just so much value. And people would see it. Those went all over. And what I explain is, like, if you show like a community aspect of a video, especially like there's a large neighborhood, it's kind of compared to like a Shore Acres, but it's in Lakeland. It's called Eaglebrook golf course community, large development. We would show drone media. We'd go show the tennis courts and the pool and all that with the house video. So then all the people that live in Eaglebrook will then share that, because they're like, "Hey, look at my amazing neighborhood. Look how beautiful," because they're bragging on their own house, gets all those eyes. Everyone's like, "John Hubbard, that's the guy. John Hubbard, that's the guy." So if I want to sell John Hubbard, so it helps the branding so much, even when you do the most basic stuff. So the point to that was like, you don't have to go Justin Smith theatrical, jumping in the pool in a suit, which I love. That's my style for sure. Right? I mean, you've probably seen, we rented a tiger for a shoot. Have you seen that video?
I did see that. I was wondering, I was like, is that thing real or is that CGI?
Oh no, that was real. We rented a tiger. It was a $3,500 tiger for a 4-hour day with a trainer, and it was a $10 million property. And the agent did videos, and it was very, like, I might look young, but when it comes to negotiating, I don't crack under pressure. And we pan out, and the tiger's there. We did a bunch of one-liners like that to open the video. Well, I'm all about the scroll stopping. I actually shot a video this morning where I'm showing a cell phone gimbal, and the video starts with me going, "This is an Osmo 6, and this is a banana." And I throw the banana, and I never mention the banana again until the end of the video. I'm just eating it. And it's just to be like, what's he going to do with this? And then that's over. Like, I'm big on the scroll stop. It matters. But video doesn't have to always be that way. And I think it actually helps your brand if you have a mixture of all of it. So some houses you go all out and do theatrics, and some houses, hey, just tour the home. I'll introduce it and you tour.
And, you don't have to have, speaking to agents specifically out there, you don't have to have your own listing to do videos, right? You can give a market update. You can give a tour of, maybe call the listing agent and see if you can do a tour of their house. I have so many buyers agents who come through my listings that will just, maybe it's on an open house. They'll show up. "Hey, do you mind if I shoot some video?" I'll go find them on social media. Next thing I know, there's the video of my house. They're not pretending it's theirs. Sometimes they tag me, sometimes they don't.
But it only benefits you. If the house sells, you get paid.
Correct. Right. But they're out there creating content for themselves. Maybe they're not even on camera. Maybe they're just shooting little, and sometimes it's not about getting a ton of views. Sometimes the simplest video, I had a listing at the end of last year, and it was in Old Northeast. It was like a $2 million property. I shot a video of the pool fountain, put it on TikTok. I think it was 7 seconds long. Got like 50,000 views on that thing. I'll shoot something that's like, 30 seconds to a minute long, giving good community information, and I get like 1,000 views, and I'm like, what? So there's no rhyme or reason. It's just
drive you crazy.
Shoot the content. Right. Shoot the content, whatever it is. Keep the algorithms on whatever social media platform happy, because, what do they, I think they say like 90% of house shopping starts on digital. And that's not just Google reviews. It's not just Zillow reviews. Yes, that is all important. That's an important strategic part of the business. But just like if I'm going to buy something that I'm not familiar with, say on Amazon, I am more likely to be drawn in and buy the product if I scroll down the reviews and I see actual, real consumer reviews that have
Me
a video or pictures
That's the
attached
first
to
thing
it.
I look for, bro. We just bought a cooler
Right.
backpack and I go look, I'm like, how big is this thing? What does it look like in the sun? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
What you
same,
just
so
said
same
there
thing
was
with, I was just going to say, so same thing with real estate videos, right? Like whether you're shooting your own stuff or somebody else's stuff, or you're giving community information, I think just get the video out there, because chances are somebody will be more, no offense, unless you're just, have a terrible personality or you're a terrible person. I don't know what the case would be, but I think even if you're just yourself, I think a buyer or a seller or an investor, somebody interested in real estate, is more likely to work with you, having that sense of comfort being around you just through your videos, versus if they go to find information on you and they can only find like maybe 30 or 40 Google reviews and a handful of Zillow reviews. Like they're more apt to use the person who has some video.
so true. And so what you just said there, which I love hearing you say, that is the biggest thing that 7-Day Social Realtor, our course, was created for, is this. So all of our agents would, we have a lot, and they would hire us to shoot their listings. We're very fast, do a great job, and we help them. We do everything that you were saying that people like to do. We will help write their scripts, get the hook point together, do the shot list. So all they got to do is show up, watch the prep video, and then they shoot their house. But the problem is, we would see they would only post content when they listed a property. I'm like, what about the other 2 or 3 weeks in between there?
Right.
And so one of the biggest sections that people are raving about in the course is we teach you, hey guys, and I actually have a video. I'm like, hey, if you want to shoot content but don't have a listing, here's what you do next. And it's like, you take your phone, you mount it on a stabilizer, and you go to a property. You can view 4 properties a day if you want. And we show you how to do the exact style of video that we shoot for you at a semi-pro version with your phone in about 5 minutes on a gimbal. So now you can fill your feed out with beautiful properties that are currently for sale by Justin Smith, by whoever else. It doesn't matter, because you can find the buyer for that house, and only helps. Even taking that further, go use that same content creation method and go to local vendors. A new donut shop open, go hit them up, go be the community expert. Or if you have a buyer and they're out of state and they're looking to buy a Florida investment property, and this is something that we do a lot in our seminars, is like, guys, like, go and take videos of these properties with your cell phone gimbal. Okay, shoot them. And then what you can do is you need to take a personalized intro. What's up, Justin? Hope it's going well today. I want to show you this beautiful property. It came out to work and looked at it. It's got this, this, this. And you can record the intro for each house, throw it in the beginning of the video, export that, and send it to your people. You're building this way deeper relationship with you, because you're showing it to just them. You're like, damn, this guy's making videos just for us. And it takes no time at all. So it's the cell phone style video, which is where we really are pushing a lot of our clients to do now, isn't to deter them from our agency, because we're like, hey, if you shoot more cell phone daily content of daily life, you're only going to get more listings. I mean, you're going to have more for us to shoot anyways. That's all we're seeing. But there's a,
well, I'm taking, with any of my listings, I'm taking from, 1 video or maybe 2 videos, the professional, my cell phone, plus the actual pictures. And on one listing, I might do, a half dozen or more posts just off of one listing. So it's not just, oh, you shoot the 1 video and take the pictures and that's your post. Like I'm doing, once I know I have the listing agreement, I'm getting just some, crazy little videos of the house on my cell phone, putting on stories saying coming soon. I'm doing, when the professional pictures are done, I'm doing candid photos. I'm doing then I'm posting the actual professional video, then I'm cutting that professional video up, making it a reel, 9:16 or whatever. So I'm reusing that content in multiple ways to create, to create multiple posts. So it's not just, well, like, okay, I do that 1 post, then what do I do? Well, continue to regurgitate that and cross-pollinate it on all the platforms as well, right? So you've got content everywhere, not just on one. But by all means, if there is, like, if all of your buyers and sellers are on Facebook, well, then go heavy on Facebook. But if they're on TikTok, go heavy on TikTok, right? And look, I may not be in the business for 40 years or 30 years or anything like that, but I'm obsessed with real estate, and I'm obsessed with helping people achieve their dreams in real estate. My saying is, relationships before real estate. And so I focus on that. And then the rest just kind of, I don't want to say comes, but I have accelerated my business because I'm obsessed with it. And I'm putting all of my effort into video and learning, not just about video, but because of that video, it gets me out there, gets me more appointments, gets me more, podcasts, gets me more conversations with clients. Exactly. And because of that, it's accelerating, my business beyond somebody who's just maybe sitting around waiting for the phone to ring and it may or may never come,
Dude.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you got a very strong brand. You definitely do. Right? That's why we're here talking about this. Like I audited all your stuff very detailed. I'm like, he's doing it well. Like there's very little room for
Thank
improvement.
you.
Of course, you can see it, but you're doing all the things. And that's my point. Like any real estate professional that we want to interview in this podcast, it's going to be people that were like, hey, this is a model to follow if you're looking to get into real estate, right? We're not trying to have agents who aren't. So yeah, you're killing it with all that. And another part of the authenticity that I just remember that I want to circle back to is so true. Just be yourself. That matters so much more because there's an example, like a lot of people remember Honey Boo Boo, that reality TV personality. And I didn't
Yep.
watch too much of it, but I did really, because I watched this in a case study. And it's like
Yeah.
that person became a celebrity, this huge fan base of following. But if that same exact child was in a local restaurant sitting next to you, behaving like that, you wouldn't feel like, wow, she's great. I really like her. I'm a big fan. So
Right,
what's the
right,
difference?
right.
You're seeing this person, first of all, because the camera, it puts this authority there. We're like, oh, this is a special person, they're a celebrity.
Mhm.
The second part is like, hey, this person's young. They're not faking that. That's just who they are. And people
Yeah.
love that real authenticity. So we always like try to help them, like, just be you. So we had an agent. This is this cool little example of that, where I went to I taught a seminar at Pinellas County Realtor Organization. So I taught an event there. A lady that attended had a $4 million property in Palm Harbor. She showed up, loved the class. After that, she booked us to shoot this $4 million property, and everything was good. Done. Then she calls me back, and this is the first time this ever happened in 10 years, but I was okay with it. And she goes, "Hey Tony, I got to be honest with you. I've been looking a lot more of your content, and you've got quite the mouth. You use a lot of profanity in some of your videos." And I was like, yeah, just keep it real. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't going to apologize for that. I was like, yeah. I mean,
Right,
I just
right.
talk like that, whatever. And this isn't like me saying like disrespectful things to people. It's just me like saying like F or shit or something,
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I just don't know if I really align with that. And I was like, that's okay. I mean, do you think you want to just like part ways and have someone else shoot your property and not work with it? She goes, yeah, I'm really thinking so. Like, I just really don't like bad language at all. And I was like, all right, like, what am I going to do? Just one less client for us, one more client for someone else, whoever ended up shooting it. If she ended up
Right.
shooting it, I didn't see. That's going to happen. But at the same time, what I get a lot of is like, I talk some shit. Like I'll talk about the type of agents. Like I made a joke and I was like, why you shouldn't hire Aitlam's Creative is all you care about is getting your first $10,000 closing check and taking the girl from Tinder on a trip to Tulum. I make videos like that because we see
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
these guys, right? They're like, they ball out after closing day. And then like when they
Yep.
come to list the property, they're trying to get you to cut them a deal on a $2 million house in Venetian. And you're
Come
like,
on.
dude, if you got
Yeah.
that listing and you can't afford to shoot it, like what's up? Like you were just in
Right.
Mexico, right? So
Right.
people love that too. And they're like, bro, I love how real you keep it, like, so it's like you will attract the people who are going to want to work with you, right? So if someone comes across Justin Smith and sees theatrics or sees the high energy personality, and for anything, if anything about that plucks the guitar string, like, you know what? No, great. There's another agent who would probably be good for him too. And the whole process will be better. More so, they already know who they're going to be dealing with. So if you, and I'm sure you're pretty much like that through the process with them. So if they're like, hey, like I'm hiring this guy because I like how he shows up, and now they know, hey, I think me and him are going to vibe. The whole process of a transaction, there's going to be no weirdness. Like they know who you are, you know who they are because you can vet
Right.
them. Versus, right, if they don't, and it's someone that like, I don't know, everyone's got clashing personality types. And if you're like, hey, like this is not my ideal client, right? What do you think about that?
Well, you have to, you have to know it. You have to back up what you're doing, right? We can all, anybody can do video. Anybody who has a real estate license, like I said earlier, can pretty much do the basics for you. But you have to know what you're doing after you get the listing or after you start working with the buyer. And for me personally, I've had so many times where I'll walk into a listing appointment and maybe knowing that the person has called me or emailed me off of a video, and maybe not, but I can't tell you the amount of times I've been sitting with, a couple or somebody sitting at their kitchen table having a listing appointment, and they say, wow, you're so much different than in your videos. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, you're like so professional and, so courteous. You actually feel like you know what you're talking about. I didn't expect that. I figured you to be like this larger than life personality and, kind of like car salesman-y. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is a part of me. But when it comes time to business, when it comes down to business, I'm going to treat you and your asset with respect. And I know what I'm doing, and I'm taking you from contract to closing and all the way through with no strings left undone, with every I dotted, every T crossed. Like, I'm getting this done professionally because I know that's what you as a seller or a buyer deserve. So it's not just what you see on video. I have, and I would hope most people do as well. But what I'm getting at is I've walked into listing appointments before that are like, oh yeah, well, I hope you're not like my last realtor. You know, they just kind of like, I haven't heard from him in 3 years. I gave, you know, they helped me buy a house. I haven't heard from them. You know, I didn't even know I had to cancel my insurance. And, you know, so I got this, you know, I got this check a year later from my insurance, but that agent didn't even help me cancel my insurance. And I didn't know that was something I had to do. I just thought title did it for me. You know, there's all little things at the end of a transaction that I think people get so overwhelmed that they forget to do that, you know, your agent should either remind you or do for you. And I think that's where going above and beyond just writing the contract and, you know, maybe helping your buyer get, you know, an inspection and insurance. There's so many other little nuances in between. And that's just one transaction. If you're doing a half dozen or a dozen at a time, you know, plus you're doing your videos and everything, it can get a little overwhelming. So having a good system in place, which is what I do. And I think what a lot of people are impressed by what I do beyond my videos is I have a really, you know, really fine-tuned system in place so that people never feel left in the dark. They never feel like, well, what's next? I'm always trying to stay one step ahead of the game so people know what's coming next. But just to full circle back around, I always find it funny because I get that comment more than anything when I walk into a room is like, I thought you were going to be big and wild and crazy. And it's like, no, like
you're
I'm
more
actually in person.
Professional than people think you're going to be based on the videos.
Well, yeah. And in person, I'm actually, you know, it is who I am. I'm actually a little bit more aloof. I'm just kind of cool,
chill,
calm, easy breezy, you know, and I think that helps calm buyers and sellers as well, or people with real estate, because that can be very elevated. So when they can feed off your energy, not that I'm low energy, I try to keep things smooth and calm until there's a reason to get, you know, energetic.
Yeah, I do love that. Well, going back to how you do business, do you have like a team or do you have people that you work with, or you do most of the stuff yourself?
I am a one-man show for the most part. I
That's
have a
amazing.
team of, you know, a trusted lender, or, you know, a couple lenders, but one primary lender that I use mostly. I have a team of title people, one primary title girl that I use, but a team if I need it, you know, a team of inspectors. I have that team, but nobody that's like on my team is salary paid people. I do have a transaction coordinator through my firm, but, and she's great, but I rarely use her because I'm so type A control freak. And, you know, people tell me like, oh, you're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to let go of that because you're never going to be able to scale your business if you don't bring people on to help. And while I have experienced times like that, especially over the past few years, and even currently right now, as I sit in this chair, I'm too much of a control freak. In my mind, there's a block because I'm like, for me to take the time out to pay someone to teach them what I do and my system and my process, what I know, to bring them onto my team to where I can fully let go and trust them, to me, that makes my skin crawl. I get super anxious. So maybe one day I'll get there, but I'm not there yet. So to answer your question, right now, I am a one-man show.
I feel that, man. So like, obviously my business is a little bit different, but I was, you know, I was a one-man show when I started. I was the guy that would go to the houses, shoot the houses, go home, edit photo, edit video, deliver to agent, book them, invoice them, answer the, you know, all of it. And it got to be the point where it got to be, you know, almost completely impossible. And then you have to realize like, hey, like what kind of quality of life would I have if I was shooting real estate 50 hours a week? The money wouldn't even be anywhere near what it is now that I was able to scale, but I wouldn't have time. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I'm in a relationship. I want to enjoy the city. So yeah, like the scaling part was challenging. Even this last couple of years when I hired a full operations director to be like, hey, like I'm no longer going to be the one speaking to clients. So I'm going to be able to take a 1,000-foot view. And my role is like, how do I grow this thing? How do I study audiobooks, watch podcasts, attend seminars, attend masterminds? That's my role now. So I can learn as much as possible from other people, and then the business can kind of run. But it was very, very challenging at first to do that. And it's like now it's been a while. I've got 2 really, really good managers in the team that kind of handle it all. And I, of course, like just had a little bit of a miscommunication error when I was like, that's why I can't step away for a week like that. I got to be involved. But it definitely like, it's hard. It's hard to scale, but definitely like in building systems, analogy I used to always say agents, anybody is like, if you have to take, let's say 5 hours to build out one system on a Monday, but it saves you 30 minutes a day for the rest of the year, it is usually worth it to do that. even if it's like a small thing.
Yeah.
So it's like for us, like how one of the little hack servers watching this, or you, how we train people is we just screen record exactly how we would do it. So if there's an exact process of editing a video, uploading, or like when we go live with a listing for agents, we'll share it to about 30 different Facebook groups, to YouTube, to Instagram, to everywhere. So we just screen record exactly what we want done, and then we can give that to our employees so they can always revert back to that exact example. Hey, this is how it needs to look. This is how it should be done. This is the order. And so it's easy to do. It takes some time to get that out, but once it does automate, it's nice to have, you know.
Well, Tony, you and I got to work together on some content, on some media, and just circling back around real quick to, you know, another reason why I don't have a team yet is because one thing that is a big pet peeve of mine with other of my colleagues is, let's say I have a listing and the agent is amazing. I fight for them. I fight for their deal with my seller. I get, you know, we execute the buyer's agent's deal. And then all of a sudden we're in the middle of the transaction and all of my communication is not with the agent who I developed a good rapport with, the buyer's agent, but now my communication is with maybe their assistant or somebody else on their team. And I'm like, I want to get a hold of, you know, John Williams, whatever, whoever the guy is or girl is. That's who I want to talk to. That's who I have confidence in doing this transaction with, not the assistant. No offense against the assistants, because there's some really good ones out there. But like, I developed a relationship with this person, and now I can barely get in touch with the buyer's agent. So for me, it's like I walk into listing appointments, or I work with buyers sometimes that are like, oh, are you going to show me some homes? And then, you know, I'm never going to see you again. I'm going to be stuck with your assistant. Or are you going to get this listing appointment because you're the face, you're the guy, and you're who I'm hiring, but the only person I'm going to have any communication with is going to be somebody on your team. And I think it's reassuring for people when I walk into that. And I get it. There's some big, you know, there's some big $100 million, you know, producing volume producing teams out there who need that help. But for me, it's like, I want to walk in there and I want to be in control of the process. And I want to reassure the people that I've developed, like I said, the relationship before the real estate with. I want them to know, like, the guy you're seeing today is going to be the guy who carries you not just to closing, but beyond closing. He's going to be there to answer any questions, you know, give you referrals when your AC breaks down or you need a new roof or you need pool service, and give you the referral for the lawn maintenance company or whatever. I'm going to be that trusted advisor, not just for this next 30 to 45 days, however long this transaction takes, but I'm going to be that guy for as long as you'll let me in your life to be able to continue to help you and bounce things off of. You're not going to get my assistant.
That's so huge. I think that's a really good point. And Justin, the guy that came with Glenda Baker, actually made a post about that this week. And he was stating he's a very successful person. He's huge on camera in Canada, owns a media company and a brokerage. And he's like a huge person in the space up there. And he was stating, he's like, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I could play the ego card too, but I don't. He's like, if someone wants to call me about a property I listed, I answer the fucking phone call. He's like, but a lot of you guys, I call and I get your assistant. I don't hear back for 4 days, and I'm trying to put an offer on the property you're selling. He's like, what do you guys think you are here? You know, you Elon Musk? And he was like being very assertive with the point. But I think it's so true. He's like, and we see that too. So getting past the gatekeeper can be hard sometimes. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a company called, have you ever done any ice bathing or cold plunging before?
I haven't. I've seen you do it on your social media.
Yeah, I love it. I've done it for like 5 years, but there's a really, really high-end company. They're called Plunge. They make like the Rolls Royce of these. It's like a all-encased, beautiful porcelain tub. You'll see them on our social. They're about $6,000. They're like the high-end unit that I've wanted for a little while. I have like a different style unit. And so I found the company. What my company's done very well over the years. So we've done a lot of content for sports brands, plus my image and my likeness works very well. Hey, I'll model and we'll shoot it and we'll produce it for you for trade for the product. We've gotten mattresses like that. We've gotten tons of vacations like that. I mean, anything you can think of, we bartered out for media exchange. And so I'm like, hey, like I want to exchange for this company, but you can't find the gatekeeper. You just don't Instagram DM. I'm like, who's the guy? You know, who do I get in touch with to get in touch with the guy? And it was so funny. I'm watching YouTube and I'm watching Shark Tank, and then boom, the owner of the company is on Shark Tank with Plunge, and I see his name, Instagram him, find him, DM him. He was on the podcast last week, and then a cold plunge is being shipped out to me just from me getting and talking to him. He's like, absolutely, man, I love it. Let's do it.
That's amazing.
Got one of those done, which is awesome. But it's like getting through a gatekeeper. Once you get through the gatekeeper, and it's great rapport. So I'm with you. You're saying like you don't want to scale to the point where you deny your client service because they can't reach you. So I think that's so huge. And like because you are such a personality in the face, you want to be in touch with them, you know, and like be available for them. That's huge.
Right. Yeah. And listen, if I ever start like, you know, doing 2 or 3 times the volume that I've done the past few years, I'll probably need some help. So I'm not too proud to take on help, but I'm always going to be the first. I'm always going to be the gatekeeper. I'm going to be the guy that you're going to get first. And I will always ask somebody's permission first. Like, hey, you know, I'm going to, you might hear from my assistant every once in a while. If I ever, I don't know, because I'm not there yet, but I would just, what I meant by that previous comment is when like maybe the agents that I deal with, like, there's this random person will show up in my phone calls or my texts or my emails that I had no idea even worked with the agent. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, I'm so-and-so's assistant or their transaction coordinator. I'm like, oh, great. I'm glad they let me know that. Right. So it's like, I would hopefully like, I'll at least let you know that, right? I'm not just going to like, boom, drop this bomb on you and you're never going to hear from me until the day of closing.
It's so funny. We shot a property. I'm going to like leave some details out of this one, but I want to call the person out, but we shot a property. It was a really, really high-end Tampa property. And as we're showing up for one of the media days, we've been communicating with one of the people's assistants. And I was like, I wonder what the agent is like. And then like when the assistant was there early and the assistant was so frazzled and so nervous and so stressed and kept checking the phone doing this. And I was like, well, that tells me a lot about what this agent's going to be like when they roll up. And me and my team were joking about it. And when the agent rolled up, it was like that. They rolled up like the red carpet should have came out under them. And the way that they like kind of acted and treated the team, I was like, man, like I wonder if their clients are feeling this too, because it's like there's a huge ego associated with it. And of course, like when people have success, it's normal. If you have a really good month and you're like, dude, like things are good this month, like the bank account's looking good, my heart's feeling good, the reviews are good, and friends are inviting you to do, like you can sometimes get a little, it's like the helium effect. It happens to me a lot where I'll be like, and you wake up to like 5 problems, you get kicked in the ass, like, oh, humble myself down a little bit. I'm a regular person. So it's normal, but I do think teams help, but I'm with you. Some people scale out too fast and then it, ends up being not good. So what I want to ask you is, where do you see, or what do you see yourself doing over the next couple of years? Do you want to stay in the realm of, hey, I work with anybody? I see what I love about you is you list some high-end properties, but you also list what you'd call like a normal, 2,000 square foot home as well. So, and there's a lot of agents can make a phenomenal career because there's a high volume, a lot more of those homes than there are of the super luxury homes that you do, right? So like, do you market specifically for one or the other? Do you like working with one or the other? Where are you at with that?
It's funny you mentioned that because just last week I was working with a buyer or started working with a buyer and they're like, oh, well, we didn't, I took the buyer meeting and they're like, well, we didn't even think you'd meet with us because we think you do like multi-million-dollar homes.
And you're like, no. Right.
I do like, no, like my bread and butter actually, and here in St. Pete, Tampa, yes, there is a lot of ultra luxury properties, not like LA or New York or anything like that, or Miami, but there are some ultra luxury properties. However, our bread and butter here is the, blue collar kind of middle class, working class person. And, it's kind of that sort of $300,000 to $700,000 or $800,000 property. That's really where a lot of my focus is. Yes, I love the multi-million-dollar properties, but I had to tell this young couple, and I was like, no, they were looking for like a $250,000 house.
How are you going to address that?
What do you mean?
Like, because that's messaging that we had to address, and I'm still working on addressing that. Like, same with us. So we shoot a lot of properties on a media company. We shoot a lot of properties, and so what we used to do was we would only throw on Instagram the best or the prettiest ones. Like, so let's say we shoot 20 in a week, we might post 10 to social media. And we learned, one, some agents were being offended because their properties weren't getting posted. Then two, we would talk to agents like, hey, I'll let you know when I have like a really, really nice one that's 8 limbs creative worthy. This one's like 500,000, nothing special. I'm like, what do you mean? And then I realized, like, if you have that, that's bad for business for us too, right? So like, how do you address that, or what can we do better to address that for all of our clients? Like, hey, we do it all. Sometimes you might just see more marketing for the bigger ones or more media on the bigger ones,
I think, and this is going to sound so elementary, but I think it's just putting it out there, whether it's through just a verbal story, a post or something, or just do as much marketing for the $250,000 little condo as you've done for the $2.5 million waterfront estate, right?
Sometimes that's not possible. It's like,
no, it's not
5 million. It's like not even as like we use the word real estate, but in this case, it's a real use. It's like there's not as much real estate to shoot. Like if you're shooting a house that's 1,500 square foot versus one that's 10,000 square feet, you're like, yo, we just have more. I can make a whole video on the outdoor living spaces of this place, you know, in itself. So it's like,
and all I was going to say is for me, I'm doing probably more work on the smaller transactions than I am on the bigger ones. A lot of times, sometimes, yes, the bigger ones, you know, depending on, you know, the actual, depending on each party in the transaction, they can be difficult, but I'm doing, what I'm getting at is in a general sense, I'm doing just as much work on the smaller deals or the smaller transactions as I am on the larger ones. So for me, they both deserve, and, you know, they're in relativity, their own equal amount of camera time. So I think just putting them out there, for me, that's what lets people know, like, oh, cool. He's also doing the, you know, like the one I put up last week that I just did a normal video on. It's a $450,000 house in Tampa, right? And the thing got scooped up quick.
There's a lot more of them. And it's a good investment. If you sell a house like that, their friends probably own homes like that. And so you think like and at the end of the day, there's a lot more homeowners that own houses under $1 million that are over $1 million, you know?
Right. So I think for me, it is just that is continuing to put the effort into the smaller ones and the larger ones. And that's why I said at the beginning, right? Like, oh, I used to only do it for over $500,000 homes, but then people didn't know, like, yeah, I'll come out and I will sell your, you know, your $300,000 home, or I will help you buy a $200,000 investment property. Now that's a whole other conversation with, well, where in St. Pete, Tampa, can you find a decent investment property for $200,000? They are few and far between. However, the ones that are out there, like, of course, I'll take the listing. I'll help you buy it, or, you know, help you find that house. So I think, I don't know, I'm kind of running on a tangent right now, but
no, I love it. I know what you're saying. It's like, you just don't want to only think it's a high-end luxury. That's something that we see some of our agents do, that we talk to. Like, it's almost like once you cross the bridge from Tampa to St. Pete, there's this huge difference in soul. I always make the joke, like, the soul of the city of St. Pete is like very bright and very happy, and like it feels it. And the soul of the city in Tampa is a little bit more like bougie and like, you know, just, I don't have to use all the adjectives, but you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
So the agents are like, they'll get out of the gate and like, I'm going to be a luxury real estate specialist. And you're just like, dude, like, how many houses have you sold? Like, what's your plan here? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're only going to go off like, yeah, proof of funds, or I'm not meeting. And it's like, good luck. Like, maybe you do a deal a year, if that, but it's like, it's not going to be better for you. I think you're much better off finding people your age, college age, and helping them for a while, and building a rapport and building a brand and building the community. And then you can move into that. So the ones that we see the best in luxury have transitioned in from years of doing it. And then they just have it as a part. So like one thing we do at our agency, Limbs Creative, is that when an agent does 5 full packages with us of listings, we create them a listing presentation video for free. So we're like, hey, like so now we give them a video and it highlights them. So it's like, hey, I'm Tony Salazar. This is 123 Banana Street. This is 123 Chocolate Street. This is one. And we show, so it's like this really nice video. They can say, hey, this is how I market my sellers' properties. And just a cool montage video, right? But now we're starting to do that for under $1 million and then for luxury, because we need that separator. Hey, here's just the luxury homes I've sold. So it looks different in front of a luxury seller. And here's the other home. So a luxury seller, like a standard seller, isn't put off going, oh, well, like our house isn't as beautiful as those. So now they're feeling insecurities about it or something, you know?
Well, and I think for me too, I hate it when agents, listen, it's just a personal opinion. We've all got one. I hate it when agents put like luxury broker on their Instagram or Facebook, TikTok or whatever, because for me, and I think for a lot of the general public and consumers, and I think for a lot of professionals in real estate, luxury anymore is not a style of house or a price point. Luxury is a service. Luxury is, like you said about the agent, rolling out the red carpet, right? Like, I'm rolling out the red carpet. That used to be when I first started the business. I put that, you know, on my little Instagram bio. It was rolling out the red carpet for my buyers and sellers or whatever. But that has, I think it's a service that you're providing, whether you're providing it to $400,000 or $4 million. Luxury is a state of mind, and luxury is a service. Luxury isn't solely just the price point of your house. And I think that's a big, you know, problem, I think, in our business right now is especially with the 40% increase we saw between 2020 and the beginning of 2022 here in Tampa, 38%, whatever it was. I think $1 million house now, 5 years ago, was considered a luxury home if you're looking at just a price point. But now, I mean, in my neighborhood, like you look at $1 million house and it's kind of a teardown. But so I don't think you can put a price point on luxury. I think it's a state of mind, and I think it's a service you are providing your clients.
Yeah, I'm with you. Speaking of your neighborhood, which is so cool of it, but you live in Shore Acres, right?
I do. I actually live in Ponderosa Shore, so I'm on the northwestern canals. I'm on the water in Shore Acres.
Yeah. I don't think of Ponderosa as Patrician Point is where my buddy he bought a place there in Patrician Point, but he bought that place.
So we're the canals just north of there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a whole crew out there. That's the guys that I wake surf with and wakeboard with, and e-foil. We're always out there ripping around, having fun. So a buddy bought a place there for $600K right post COVID, and now it's over $1 million. And he's done
thing with my
nothing
house.
to the house. He's done nothing. The new bridge helped a ton because now you can have a larger boat under the bridge, right? That's something cool about that I was explaining. Like when you live on the water, especially here in St. Pete, it was education for me. Your home value reflects the size of boat you can have parked out back. And so when you have to cross under a bridge, your boat claims. And we had days actually when we'd wake surf, we'd go to wake surf in Riviera Bay by Tanglewood. And then we'd come back and we're trying to get under the main bridge, and we couldn't. So we'd have to back out, take the whole surf roof off, lift it, lower it, fill the bags up to lower the boat down, and barely make it underneath. And some boats with T-tops just couldn't get home when the tide was too high. So
and Shore Acres is tricky as an agent when you're trying to value a home, because it's like, okay, well, just your home might be in Venetian Isles, right? Which is technically Shore Acres. Water. It might be on Bay Shore, open water. Well, there's some canals in Venetian even that are bridge restricted, right? If you're west of Overlook on the south side of Venetian, there's like 3 or 4 canals that are bridge restricted. So as an agent coming in here, you have to know your waterfront in Shore Acres. And then there's the Dover canals that you've got 2 or 3 bridge restrictions to get out to open water. So you might only be able to have a small little deck boat or bay boat. You can't have, my neighbor in Ponderosa here just bought a 43-foot Tiara sport fisherman that he can now get under the new bridge because they raised the bridge. 2 years ago, nobody could have dreamed of having something over maybe 25 foot back here. So now being able to value a home and I'm sure there's lots of places around here like this throughout Tampa, St. Pete, but especially in Shore Acres where, you've got some areas that are a little bit more floody, some older areas of Shore Acres, areas on water, bridge restricted versus non-bridge restricted. How much waterfront does it have? So it's not like, oh, I can go over to, maybe to Allendale where it's all in, flood zone XX 500 and most of the homes are all the same. I can value that a little bit easier than I can maybe somewhere in Shore Acres on the water, or even Snell on the water.
It pays to know the community is basically the point of that. It does pay to know for sure. And it's like the point that we used to make, we would leave his house on paddleboard sometimes. And we would go out, let's say towards, like you're going towards the bay, not towards the bay. What's the word I'm looking for? What's the park called out there? My gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Smacks Bayou. If you're going out from Patrician.
But not towards going to the pier, the other way. So we'd go the other way and you're paddling.
Wheaton Island.
Wheaton Island. Yes, that's right. We go out towards Wheaton and you would notice the boats. So you'd be like, okay, little boats, tiny boats, jet skis, little boats, tiny boats. And then you cross that last bridge under the paddleboard and all of a sudden, boom, sailboats and yachts and the boats show. And I was like, what is up with that? And he's like, dude, the bridges. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even click. It makes so much sense. So, and that makes it when most of the people that live on the water want to be boaters. They either are boaters or they want to be. So it does make a big difference. So that new bridge, something so simple, and I'm sure the community came out of community taxes, right? Or is that city? But that helped everyone's home value that lived in the water.
Absolutely. It helped everyone's home value back here for sure. I mean, same thing with your buddy happened to us when we bought this right after really close to post-pandemic before things really started to take off. And what enabled us to continue to renovate our house beyond our original budget was just watching the market and saying, I guess we can put a little bit more money into this because we're still holding value. It's not exceeding what I think we could turn around and sell it for. So we continue to improve and improve.
That area is going to hold value forever. I think that's one of the best areas. When I left there and I came over here to Treasure Island area, I do love it on the water side too, because it's a different lifestyle over here too. It's so different. It's like the island sandbars and the green water and the type of lifestyle over there. On that side, it was like yacht club, the pier, Wheaton, you drive to Tampa on the boat. And it was, it's different. It's very different on different sides of St. Pete,
And I don't want to get too much off topic, but for us, it's a good point you brought up, because I was just having this conversation. I have a listing right now at 1 St. Pete at the condo tower downtown. And I was telling these potential buyers, they're from Chicago, so they really knew nothing about St. Pete or the beaches or near downtown. And so I was explaining to them, I said, look, it's a personal preference. If you want to be at the beach and you want that lifestyle, you want to be around more tourists than normal, then that, great, that's for you. It's going to be a lot more kind of beachy restaurants, and nothing wrong with that, but it's a different lifestyle than being near downtown St. Pete and being on the water on the bay side versus being on the Gulf side. And for Valerie, my wife, and I, we had the opportunity back before we bought this place to go over to the beach side, and we looked over there. And for us, going to the beach, even being near downtown, we're 2 miles north of downtown where we're at right now, and we're on the water. We can still go to the beach and it feels special. It's 15 minutes away, whether it's Treasure Island, St. Pete Beach, Madeira, IRB, wherever. IRB is a little bit further, but it's 15, 20 minutes away across the peninsula, and it feels more special. It feels like a staycation or a vacation. So it's really, if you're looking to buy here around St. Pete specifically, it's like, do you want to live at the beach full time? Where I don't know, but for me, I would imagine maybe after years, maybe it loses its charm. It loses that specialness about it. Whereas, not living there, it'll always be a little bit special. So we're like, let's get on the water near downtown, where we're close to the airport, close to Tampa. Yeah. Right. Close to downtown, and where I do the majority of my business. And then we can shoot over to the beach, and that feels like a vacation every time we go.
I think the thing that area has the best, which is something like, I love that I've been able to live in 2 different locations in St. Pete now. And I experienced both when I was in Northeast, now over here, is the commute time to the highways dramatically affects your lifestyle.
Right.
Where I lived in Old Northeast, my commute time to the highway was short. Like, I'll be 5 minutes and I'm on the highway. Over here, it's 20 minutes just to get to the highway. And then I'm on the highway, and then I got to go to Tampa still. So I think that changes a lot of it. It's like how long commute time and drive time is. And that's something that I thought about a lot. It does factor into people's properties. That's why it helps so much that people that know the community, like you're saying, because you can tell them exactly what you said. Over here, the only part I disagree with you on is that I do think the beach is always going to be amazing. Like, I want to live in here because I love the lifestyle so much. Every night, almost every night, we see sunset in the beach. Take my daughter with my partner. We're on the beach, and it's like a really nice, hey, this is why we work so hard. We're here for this. Where when I was living in Allendale area or the Old Northeast, I would almost only make it to the beach on the weekends, right? I wouldn't go on the weeknight for sunset. It was the drive all across town, But the restaurant, it definitely matters. There's not a lot of great food over here. There's beachy restaurants, tourists. There's like downtown has way better food in 4th Street as far as restaurants and options. So it helps to have agents who know the community they're selling in, right? It's a big deal.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I love the beach. We love the beach. We just wanted it to feel more special. We, in our mind, forecasted and thought, well, if we're over here all the time, it might lose that sort of special charm about it. That was just our... It may not. Well, for us personally, it might. Maybe not for somebody else, but for us, we're like, maybe it will. So that's why we chose to be here. It's just a personal preference, right? So
and you guys have the water. I mean, you live in an amazing spot over there, Short Acres. That's really cool. So as we finish up and wrap up here, I want to get a couple of questions here. Justin, you're talking to, let's just say, a brand new real estate agent. Then they're male or female, it doesn't matter, and they are looking for the guidance on where they're going to start. Like, what advice would you give that first-year agent that's kind of lost right now and is like, looking, who do I follow? What do I do?
First thing I can tell a new agent that, and I just met with a new agent from a customer of mine that their kid got their real estate license, and they're like, oh, so-and-so, my kid's getting into real estate. Would you mind meeting with them? So just had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and they were asking me the same thing. So the first thing that I did was go sit on some open houses, go, just meet people. Get your name out there, get out there and meet people and be genuine and authentic. Again, you've passed the test, which arguably, is, I don't want to say it's a joke. For many people, it's hard. Many people take the test multiple times before they pass. But, once you have your license, and you've hung your license with a broker, now what, right? You can get with some firms that have amazing training programs, or you can get with firms that have 0 training programs. Wherever you end up landing, get with a mentor, find somebody that you admire their business, not that you want to that you're going to, I worship, but somebody that you admire their business, and follow them, see if you can follow them, have them mentor you on your first couple deals, your first couple transactions, and go sit on open houses. For me, that was a tremendous amount of value, was just calling random agents. I would see a house in a neighborhood that popped up. And this was before 2020, before they were going like crazy. Like I said, this is back in 2015, 16, and even going back to my Orlando days before LA. I would just call random agents, even though they weren't in my firm, and was like, hey, my name's so-and-so. I see your house has been on market for a couple of weeks. Your listing has been on market for a couple of weeks. You mind if I host an open house? And then just getting my name out there, meeting people in the community, that would give me buyer leads, which eventually now in my career turns into referrals, turns into turns into listing leads. So yeah.
That's huge. I think that's so true, man. Get yourself out there, be omnipresent, guys. I'll kind of piggyback on that. Get yourself out there. Your name needs to be known. Your face needs to be known. And even though we are huge in digital media and all my businesses are about digital media, I still go out in the community as much as possible. Hosting an event tonight, I'm going to be there meeting agents, talking to people. I'll show up at open houses for clients of ours just to show my face. Make a quick, hey guys, I'm here today at Justice Open House, just to get out there. So when you can combine the strong digital presence with at least a present in-person presence, it's going to really help your business a ton. People that people never see and never meet, aren't doing a lot of business. Like there's something to that.
Because, and I'll piggyback on that one more thing, is because also like when you get out of, real estate school and you get out of your, your firm, your broker's training, you literally, zero, nothing, right?
Sure.
Half the stuff they teach you in real estate school, you're never going to use out in the field. So if anything too, getting out and meeting people and doing open houses and talking to people, you are going to get asked questions that zero how to answer.
Exactly.
Don't pretend to know the answer. Tell them, give me a few minutes or a couple hours or a day. I'll get back to you on that. The worst thing you can do is try to answer a question falsely and pretend you know everything.
Yeah.
But that is some of the best training you will get beyond working with a mentor or anything. It's just getting out there and doing it. I don't want to say faking it till you're making it, but fake it till you make it. But you're going to get out there and get asked these questions that you're going to be forced to research and problem solve. And that will, like I said, being obsessed and just accelerating your business, that will force you to learn in a way that no real estate school or mentor or anybody can force you to learn.
Agreed. And the best response you guys can ever give, if you don't know the answer, is really good question. Let me get back to you on that. And just go fucking find the answer. Like it's like that scene from Pursuit of Happiness, Will Smith, that you see regurgitated in mentor stuff all the time. It's so true. It's like, he's like, hey, I'll tell you who I am. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know, but I do know how to find the answer, and I will find the answer. And that's like when I hire, it's all I want. Some of our guys, like, they'll call me. I'm like, hey, have you Googled this yet? And it's like, find it. You'll learn so much like that. And once you have a question that you don't know and you look it up, and then, now and that's one more thing, and you do 10 years of that, a lot, and you become that